You've seen this animal before. The eye is the size of a dinner plate, the beak that can shear straight through flesh, arms lined with hooks that rotate inside their own sockets, so once they catch, there's nowhere to go. A monster, hauled up from the bottom of the world. This is colossal squid, except that's not what it looks like, not even close. For 100 years, every picture we had was a corpse, swollen, discolored, ruined by the trip to the surface. We had the beaks, cut from the stomachs of sperm whales. We had the scars it left on the whales that fought it. What we had never seen, not once in a century of trying, was a living one in its own world. Then, in early 2025, a camera finally caught it. And what it showed was the same animal, alive, glass clear, weightless, drifting through the dark like a piece of moving water. Nothing like the monster we'd built. This is World Untangled. Today, we will understand the mystery behind the heaviest invertebrate on Earth. An animal engineered not to terrify, but to survive. For most of human history, the colossal squid was a rumor. The animal itself had never been seen, photographed, or measured alive. What we had instead was sperm whales. Sperm whales hunt squid. They dive a kilometer, sometimes 2, into freezing black water and come back with full stomachs. The soft body of a squid digests, but the beak does not. A squid's beak is one of the toughest things any animal builds. Chitin and protein, cross-linked so tightly that stomach acid can't break it down. So the beaks accumulate. Some whales die with hundreds of them inside. When whalers in the early 20th century cut open those stomachs, they found a pattern. Most of the beaks were small, ordinary squid. But scattered among them were beaks so large they couldn't belong to anything anyone had ever seen. Some were the size of a fist. That was the first clue. Before anyone had laid eyes on this animal, we knew it had to exist, because something enormous had left its beak in the belly of a whale. In the winter of 1925, 2 huge arm crowns were recovered from a sperm whale's stomach near the Falkland Islands in the South Atlantic. A British zoologist named Guy Coburn Robson studied them and gave the animal its name, Mesonychoteuthis hamiltoni, the colossal squid. For most of the 20th century, that was the pattern. Beaks, severed arms, half-digested fragments pulled from the guts of whales. Now and then, a whole animal did surface, dragged up by a deep-sea trawler from the bottom of the world. But they came rarely, and they came broken, torn, half-rotted, never quite intact. An animal everyone now knew existed, living in a part of the ocean almost no one could reach. Then, in February 2007, a longliner called the San Aspiring was hauling toothfish out of the Ross Sea when something seized one of the fish on its lines 1,500 meters down. It didn't let go. The crew pulled the line, and the line pulled up a colossal squid, still gripping its prey as it broke the surface. It weighed nearly 500 kilograms, the mass of a grand piano. It was frozen and shipped to a museum in Wellington, where it remains today, the most complete colossal squid ever preserved. Not the first whole one ever found, but the best by a distance. And that single specimen taught us more than the previous 80 years combined. We could finally measure the eye, the beak, the hooks, but it was still dead, pulled out of its world and into ours. To see what this animal actually does, how it moves, how it hunts, how it survives, we'd have to wait another 18 years. A colossal squid's eye is about 27 centimeters across, wider than a dinner plate, wider than a soccer ball. Behind it sits a lens the size of an orange and a retina packed with light-sensitive cells. There is no other animal alive, and as far as we know, none that has ever lived, with eyes this large, 3 times the diameter of any fish, larger than a blue whale's, larger than a tyrannosaur's. And the question that's driven decades of research is simple. Why? Because bigger eyes don't always mean better sight. In most animals, eye size scales with body size, and past a certain point, adding more eye buys you almost nothing. The colossal squid breaks that rule. In 2012, a team of biologists worked out the leading explanation. In the deep ocean, almost no light reaches down from the surface. But there is light. It's faint, flickering, and biological. Nearly every animal at these depths makes some form of bioluminescence, some as defense, some as a lure, and some by accident, because the tiny organisms they swim through flash when they're disturbed. And that last detail is the key. When a sperm whale drives down into the colossal squid's habitat, the whale itself doesn't glow, but the water around it does. As it moves, its body disturbs trillions of tiny, bioluminescent organisms, and they flash, leaving a faint, glowing wake behind it, like the trail of a torpedo through plankton. A normal eye can't catch that glow at a distance. An eye this size can. The researchers calculated that it could detect the bioluminescent wake of a sperm whale from more than 100 meters away in the deep, which means, if they're right, the eye isn't built to find prey. It's built to see the predator coming. The largest eyes in the history of life evolved not to hunt, but to survive, to catch the faint glow of disturbed plankton swirling around a sperm whale, and to react before it's too late. Every record this animal holds, it holds for the same reason. Something down there is trying to eat it. If the eye is the warning system, the body is the response. The colossal squid is built to survive a fight it can't afford to lose. The sperm whale isn't its only threat, but it's the most dangerous. Its first defense is the eye to see the danger coming and slip into the dark. But if that fails, it is not unarmed. Most squid have suckers, discs ringed with tiny teeth that grip flesh. The colossal squid has those too. But on its 2 longest tentacles, at the center of each sucker, sits a hook. And not a fixed one. A hook that can swivel, rotating inside the sucker to lock onto flesh from almost any angle. Once it's in, it doesn't easily come out. Those 2 feeding tentacles can shoot out more than 2 meters from the body in a fraction of a second, hook into a target, and drag it back toward the beak. The beak is where the fight ends, shaped like a parrot's with 2 edges that scissor against each other, large enough to fit your fist inside the gap. Behind it, a tongue covered in rasping teeth pulls flesh down the throat after the beak has cut it. Put it together. Eyes that spot a predator at 100 meters, tentacles that strike in a heartbeat, rotating hooks, a beak that cuts clean through flesh, a body that reaches the mass of a grand piano in the freezing dark. This is an animal engineered to survive an encounter with one of the largest hunters in the sea. And we know those encounters happen because of the scars. Sperm whales pulled from the Southern Ocean carry circular wounds across their faces and jaws, deep enough to leave permanent marks and match to the size and pattern of colossal squid hooks. Some of the largest males carry dozens. Some bear scars healed over older scars from fights long past. These weren't clean, effortless meals. the squid hooks in and holds, and even as it's dragged up and lost, those swiveling hooks rake across the predator's skin, leaving a record that lasts for decades. The heaviest scarring is on the biggest males, the largest whales taking the largest squid, the only prey down here big enough to leave a mark. So a sperm whale's dive into this habitat isn't a feeding stop, it's a contest. The whale hunts in the dark with sound. The squid watches for the glow with the largest eyes on Earth. We don't know who moves first. We have never seen one of these encounters from beginning to end. Everything we know about it, we've read off the scars. In early 2025, an expedition led by the Schmidt Ocean Institute reached the South Sandwich Islands, a remote frozen volcanic chain in the South Atlantic on the edge of Antarctic waters. Aboard the research vessel Falkor 2, the team was running a remotely operated vehicle called Sebastian, capable of diving thousands of meters. They weren't looking for colossal squid. They were searching for new life of any kind. At 600 meters down, on the 9th of March, something drifted into Sebastian's lights. A glass-clear body, long trailing arms, two enormous dark eyes. It was a colossal squid, a juvenile, about 30 centimeters long. The footage was brief before it slipped out of frame. It was the first time, in the 100 years since the species was named, that anyone had filmed a colossal squid alive in its own habitat. A century, almost to the year, after a biologist named it from two arms in a whale's stomach. And here is the thing nobody was ready for. The footage isn't a monster movie. No 500-kilogram giant. No striking tentacles. No battle with a whale. Just a small, fragile, almost transparent animal drifting quietly through the dark. That is what a colossal squid looks like when it's alive. Glassy, weightless, like a piece of moving water. The terrifying images you've seen, the bulging eye, the gaping beak, the rubbery red flesh, those are dead animals, swollen and wrecked by the trip to the surface. The living one looks nothing like its own corpse. And that brief footage opened 100 new questions. We don't know how colossal squid mate. We don't know where they breed or how many there are. We've never watched the hooks rotate. We've never seen a female carrying eggs. We've never seen one hatch. For the heaviest invertebrate on the planet, that is a staggering amount of ignorance. So, what is the colossal squid? Not the giant squid. That one lives in temperate seas worldwide and was first filmed alive back in 2012. The colossal squid lives only in the freezing Southern Ocean, weighs nearly twice as much, carries rotating hooks the giant squid lacks, and stayed hidden until 2025. And not a sea monster either. The kraken of legend surfaces and drags down ships. The real animal lives below 1,000 meters in Antarctic water. It doesn't come up. It doesn't come near us. What it actually is a solution to a single problem. The deep water around Antarctica is one of the harshest places on Earth, and the colossal squid evolved to own it. Eyes large enough to spot the most powerful predator in the ocean before it arrives. Hooks built to lock on to that predator when it does. A beak strong enough to fight back. Every feature of this animal answers one question. How do you survive in the freezing dark when the thing hunting you is the most powerful predator in the sea? The answer is that you become something almost as formidable. Not faster, not bigger, just precisely built for the fight. And then you spend 100 years as a ghost, a beak in a whale's stomach, a scar across a whale's face, an animal everyone knows is there, and almost no one has ever seen. In 2025, we saw the first one. A small, glassy, harmless-looking thing drifting in the dark. There are countless more down there right now, suspended in the dark, watching for the faint blue glow of plankton swirling around something enormous. We've only just begun to look. So now that we've finally seen one alive, what's the question about the colossal squid you most want answered? Tell me in the comments. And if you want to keep untangling the world, subscribe to World Untangled.